Welcome back, everybody. Making a little progress on the Voron build. Not going to video everything that I'm going to add the full assembly, but I will do little bits and pieces of key parts of the installation. I think feel important to cover, and we are going to, and then I'm going to just do like an overall of what I've got done so far for most of the build. So far this evening, now we're getting to get ready to build the Z drive IM component. So there's 4 stepper motors. I've already gone ahead and put on the pulleys. These are the 20T pulleys, I believe it was. 16T pulleys on here, but I believe that they should have been, yep, the 16T pulleys that was covered. So I have 4 of these on, and I put Loctite on each of the set screws as per the instructions in the build. And so I have 4 of these motors built. And now I'm going to need to build 4 of the Z drive assemblies, which look like this. Spin in the reverse. So I need to build 4 of these assemblies, which will be attached to the frame. One of the steps for this build, and will be used in other, throughout the installation of the kit, is that you need to put in these M3 threaded inserts. They are supplied with the kit. There is a bag of them. I bought some extra ones from Amazon just in case I mess up. I don't know how many is in the kit, so I bought some of them in advance. I was also waiting on, I've seen people do this with a soldering iron and using just a regular tip to push these in, but there is a proper tip you can use. I did mention in the other video I was waiting for that to show up, and I do have mine now. So, as you can see here, it's a little brass tip, it's kind of squared off. So its idea is that this goes into the heat insert, and when you push down, it should push it straight. Very important that these are put in straight and that they're flush with surface. Now, when I was sizing up my insert to see how they go in, you might see on this one it's a little hard to see that on one end of this is got a little, it's hard to get the camera to focus. And you'll notice that on it there is a, I guess it's got a groove etched into the side here, and on one end it's smooth. The smooth side is meant to go down so that it's sitting in your in the hole that you want to melt this in. And these work with all kinds of different plastics, but we're dealing with ABS here. So one of the things I need to do is, in order to put these in, I need to heat up my my tool, my soldering iron, to the temperature in which the heat insets will transfer into the material, and that material will get softer, melt around it. I don't want to get too hot starting off, so I'm going to start where this is ABS. I printed this stuff about 260 degrees on my Prusa. I'm going to start off with the 240, so these things go nice and slow. We're going to start with this first one here. I've already laid out my inserts. I try to make sure they're as straight as possible. So now I'm going to use my tool to go into the thread, into the center of the thread. And I'm lightly going to push. It's going to heat the brass. Very light pressure until it's flush with the surface, and then take it out. That's our first one. Let's try the second one. I don't really want to mess this up, because if I mess this up, I gotta print a new part. Now, there are a couple different kinds of these that you can buy. The ones that are recommended are these ones with the grooves that are going opposite direction. There's a little bit more for the plastic to grab. Just make sure this one's on the edge now, so take my time very slowly, just let it melt, heat up the material around it. Let light pressure, let it go in so it's flush with the surface. And this one could go down a little tiny bit more. Don't want them to go too far. But you know, these got to be straight when they go in, or you're going to have problems. So some of these, you know, I try to line up nice and straight first. And I go slow with these and light pressure. Just make sure, take your time to get these in there. Alright, oh, that one could go down a little bit more. Okay, so that's one done. 3 more to go. Yeah, I'm going to build my Z belt drives. When I have those 4 fully assembled, or at least 3 of them, I will stop. I will jump back in here and show you how the at least one of them is done, and that will be the last one. All right. Okay, everybody. I've just assembled 3 of the Z drives, or pretty much a large portion of it. I got pretty quick at it, so you know, I'm going to do the last one and walk you through what I had to do for each kind of what this is a build of each one. So you'll need for this step 3 of the 625 bearings. You'll need 4 of these ADT pulleys, G2s. You'll need a 20T 9mm pulley. Shaft. There's 4 of these and they are cut flat on one side. Your belt. There's a little trick with the belt. You can't forget 6 M3 by 40mm screws, rubber foot, and M5 nut and an M5 by 10 screw. You also need your accents. This is for the parts attaching the foot for the Z-Oddler, and we're going to use these 2 parts for to hold the shaft together and close it. So we're going to start first by taking our ADT pulley and our Allen key and a put a little thread locker. Sorry. On these before in advance. So I thread locked all the other ones as well. This is the blue thread locker. So I just put these in a little bit, not all the way, just enough to get the thread locker out. Get them into there. The set screws are not going to fall out. I can do that in advance. I'm going to do the same thing now for my 20T. Can't see this over here, but you can. Put a little bit on here. Screw a little bit in here. Second screw. Set screw. Oh, way too much. Still haven't gotten the knack of thinking. I think I made the hole too big for when I opened that too. So, first thing, take your ADT, slide our rod through. Now, when you're putting this through and you fix it, make sure that one set screw is at least on the flat surface. You're going to push this through just enough, kind of, so that you can put a bearing on the end. This is meant to be loose, so it's going to fall off, but just kind of use it for gauging your space. Make sure your ADT one set screw is on the flat surface, and let's tighten that down. You might need to adjust this before the final assembly here, but pretty confident now. And I just lost my bearing, but I still have it. Next, you're going to pick two M5 spacers as the kit, and just put them on. Now we're going to put another 625 bearing. These should slow out, go on relatively easy, but these ones are a little bit. There we go. Bunch of bearings on. Now you're going to put two more spacers. That's what it looked like in the instructions anyway too. Might have been one, but two. But everything lined up for me, so I'm assuming there's two. Is right. They don't say that it's two. They just give you a picture. You're going to put your 20T fully on with the set screws out towards it. Again, this follows the same thing. Let's get one of our set screws right on that flat part of the shaft. That's going to make sure that your set screw really bites. Let's tighten this down. Let's clean up this a little bit. And we're going to tighten this one up. And we're going to put the bearing, another one of these 625 bearings on the end. Okay, we're going to put this one on this end. Again, you might need to make some adjustments. I had to use one of them with a little bit of negotiating very lightly to get it on. Okay, here's the key step. Next, we're going to use this part here to put our shaft in. However, if we put the shaft in now and button this thing up, you're not getting the belt that needs to go here on. So take your belt, put it on your pulley. We're going to set this up inside the part. You probably won't see it on the camera because of the darkness, but in here there's little grooves that the bearings will seat in. So make sure that your bearings are lined up with those. Make sure your belt is in this groove. If not, you'll have to take this all apart. Okay, so now we have that much assembled. Now we're going to take parts that we started with and put our heat inserts in and lay that over the top, holding it. And from the back side with the arrows, we're going to put in our 40mm M3s. I like to do the outside perimeter first, one in each corner, so to speak, if I can, opposite corners. I just had trouble with that one over there, so just to hold it together at first. Let's get this one in here. Another 40mm on this corner, opposite corner. That. Our shaft seems to, rotate pretty smoothly there. Okay, next step, we need 3 more heat inserts to put in these 3 holes. I have most of my parts here all set up ready to go, but for this, I'm using these. I forgot to take these out. So again, now I'm putting them with the little smooth side in. And in one of these, when I did them, I tried to screw the next part on, I found that it pulled it out. So I'm going to wait a little, maybe extra for the material around to cool to ensure that it's gripped. I think these holes on this were probably not to spec and maybe a little bit larger than they should have been. And that would have been a problem with my printer doing that, not the part design. Okay, so now we're going to give that a few moments to for the plastic to cool there and harden up. So we're almost done. Next is we're going to take this accent color put for the foot. We're going to put an M5 nut in the back side of it here. And we're going to use some M3 screws by 8 to affix to our drive unit here. So I was a little concerned with the nut falling out, but it's actually designed pretty good because the nut actually rubs up against the drive wheel here, the ADT. So, oops, fell out that time. So what I did the other couple times is I laid this unit on its side ever so carefully with this. One M3. Didn't torque these down because these are just supporting the foot, so I don't want to pull those insets out. So. Just make sure they're kind of snug and they're not going to fall out. And now we're going to just put the rubber foot on. So I'm going to start with putting the M5 by 10 screw into it here, and put it into that nut. Again, not going to be super tightening this down. So the nut falls. You have to grab, and nice and tight. Alright, so that's 4 of those we need. I need to check out the next step, because the next step is putting the motor mounts together, the motor mounts onto the motor, and getting the belt tensioner and getting these ready, and I believe putting these on the frame if I'm correct. But I'm going to leave that for now, and I'm going to read that, and once I get a few of those done, I will show you how to assemble at least one of those. Okay, everybody. Just put on my motor mounts for the Z drive and want to point something out. Didn't see a point cover, it's just putting in 3 screws. But if you're following the R1 instructions, it will tell you look for that part as the motor mount, and then you need 4 screws. In the parts that I printed for my R1, there was no such part, but the motor mount looks like that. So just note that if you're doing the R1 instructions, I haven't seen the R2 ones, that this part is not the same as what's in the instructions. Another thing to note in the instructions when you're doing this, assemble this, have your Z motor or the stepper motor plug pointing in the direction of the open face where there's no part. I believe this will just make it easier when you put these on, so that you can actually get at the plugs so they're away from the rest of the assembly. So I'm not sure exactly how this is going to work yet. So I'm assuming it's going to go together like this. There's a tensioner and stuff. I don't think this is the right orientation here or the right setup, but I'm going to try and solve. So I have one of the Z motors, one of the drive units attached to the frame, and I ran into an issue. And previously I said, when you're mounting your motors, to kind of have the plug end, if your stepper has the plug in this kit, they do, have it in this direction of the open face side. That's incorrect. You need to have it on the closed face side, because your tensioner is going to go in here, and this needs to sit against the motor. So if you do this, if you have it the way I did my initial orientation, your wiring is going to wrap around. You're going to have a hard time getting at the plug. So yeah, I got to undo those other 3 motors now before I can move ahead. So I'm going to fix those, and hopefully I will have. Hey everybody, I've installed 3 of the Z drives already. This is the last one to do now, so I'm going to go through it. It's not overly difficult. There are a few little tip things. The arrows here, you know, they're the drive portion. They need to be kind of to the left and the right of the printer. And the open face spots here, they are to the front and the rear of the printer. These are to fix with your M5 T-nuts. A little trick that I've kind of picked up from watching others is to use pair of needle pliers, put these things in on an angle, and then just tip. Works really easy. I have yet to master a way to get them out. So make sure that when you're putting them in, that you're putting them in the spot that you need them. So I've got my 2 T-nuts in. Take this drive assembly and put 2 M5 by 40mm bolts, as per the instructions, or screws, whatever you want to call them, down through. There is a little key, it's hard to see here, a little keyed spot right here on this part. And this will line up with the extrusion so that you get these kind of in the right spot. So, attach our motor. Remember, I had to fix some little bit of going on. So there's again 2 T-nuts for this side, M5s. I'm going to put them in really quickly here. These are a little bit easier to work with because they're what you have to do here. You need 2 M5 by 10s. Now I'm going to take the motor and assembly, and I'm going to put it through the belt before I even try to screw anything down. You don't want these to be tight either. My screws are not, you know, so nowhere near where they need to be. That one is. You can move this one down a little shade. So you're not going to tighten these right up. So the first one is just snug. Then you're going to put your tensioner in an untensioned position. Put in our screw, get it into the T-nut, catch it. Give a few turns. We're going to try and center up our belt on our pulleys here. If you can, you might need to make some adjustment there, but for now I'm going to engage my tensioner. Might need to adjust my pulleys a little bit here, but and I'm going to tighten these up. There we go. That's it for the Z drive assembly at the base of it. I still have to do the upper idlers, and I think I will do that and assemble them and just show you when they're done. They look kind of straightforward to do. Alright, that's it for now. Thanks again.